Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Day in the Life of Scientists. This webinar is part of an ongoing webinar series on careers in bioscience produced by BioCT in partnership with the University of Connecticut Center for Career Development. My name is Lisa McGuire, and I'm with the UConn Center for Career Development. Event. You should see your attendee interface on your computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Note that today's presentation is being recorded and will be provided within 48 hours. I'd like to now introduce you to Dawn Hocevar, President and CEO of BioCT. She will introduce our guest presenters for today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Hocevar, President and CEO of BioCT. BioCT is Connecticut's voice for the bioscience industry in the state. We work with all aspects of the ecosystem to assist with collaboration between government, academia, and industry to create, grow, and retain talent and companies in Connecticut. This monthly series is focused on careers in industry, the types of jobs that are needed, and personal stories on career paths and skills. Please check BioCT's career portal for jobs and recordings of these webinars and sign up for our news alerts to stay on top of industry activities at www.bioct.org. Today's presentation will consist of 3 sections: an introduction to Pfizer, presented by Paul McGurk, Senior Resourcing Manager, with tips on life science resumes and interviewing, presented by Susan DePaglia and Danielle Maciag, who are recruiters at Pfizer. And finally, a panel discussion with Pfizer employees, Sweta Modi, Kyle Wald, and Rachel Simons, and Melissa Orlando, who represent different divisions, backgrounds, and roles at Pfizer. We hope that this is an interactive session and encourage your questions, especially during the panel session. Thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over now to Paul McGurk.
Okay, thank you, Dawn, and welcome everyone. My name is Paul McGurk, and I'm a Senior Manager of External Drug Product Supply here at Pfizer Groton Labs. In my role, I coordinate the external manufacturing and delivery of clinical drug products that are used to support Pfizer's clinical trials. I'm also a graduate of UConn with a Bachelor's of Science in Molecular and Cell Biology, and I've also obtained my MBA from the University of New Haven while in the professional workforce. Today, I'm going to take about 10 minutes to get you excited about medical advancement, provide you some insight into the drug discovery and development pathway, and then tell you a bit about Pfizer. Included in what I will highlight is how Groton Labs, right here in Connecticut, is the center of excellence in drug discovery and development for Pfizer globally. So one of the greatest achievements in the history of public health is the continued increase in life expectancy that began during the 20th century. To illustrate just how far we have come, I would like to provide you some historical perspective. It's 1901 and we're at the World's Fair in Buffalo, New York, where President William McKinley is giving a speech. During that speech, he's shot in the stomach by an assassin. He's assessed by the doctors on the scene, and it's determined that he needs immediate surgery to remove the bullet and repair any damage. He's moved into the infirmary, where they begin surgery. All gas lighting that illuminates the infirmary needs to be extinguished, as they're using highly flammable ether to anesthetize him. After over an hour and a half of searching for the bullet in vain, they close up the wound. The standard of care he receives as he recovers, according to the local newspaper, is raw eggs to sustain him and injections of strychnine to stimulate his nerves. Needless to say, William McKinley died 8 days later from gangrene as a result of severe bacterial infection of his gunshot wound. In a mere 117 years, we have went from injecting rat poison to stimulate our nerves to wonderful advancements in antibacterials, biologic drugs, and gene therapies. I would argue that the advancements in public health and medical treatment have far greater impact on the day-to-day life of people than the advancements made in areas such as aerospace and electronics. While many advancements I just mentioned have contributed to the increase in life expectancy over time, this rapid pace of advancement continues to this day. According to a recent study, 73% of the total increase in life expectancies between years 2000 and 2009 can be attributed to pharmaceutical innovation alone. History continues to prove that the advent of new life-enhancing and life-extending medicines has been a powerful contributor to individuals living longer and better lives as they age. Now, on this chart, it shows the drug discovery and development funnel to illustrate just how difficult and high-risk drug discovery and development is. As you can see on the left, R&D programs start with thousands of potential compounds, and only 1 in 5 to 10,000 of those compounds eventually make it to FDA approval. It's essentially the equivalent of finding a needle in a haystack on a molecular level. In addition, it takes an estimated 10 to 15 years and approximately $1.3 billion to bring that one medicine through to FDA approval. Now, due to the difficulty and high risk in bringing a medicine to market, Pfizer prioritizes its research and development efforts in areas with the greatest scientific and commercial promise. Through major research efforts across multiple modalities, including small molecules, biologics, and vaccines, Pfizer is developing the medical solutions that will matter most to people we serve. Specialized efforts in biosimilars as well as rare disease also illustrate our dedication to developing and delivering innovative medicines and vaccines that will benefit patients around the world. Now, here's a snapshot of our current pipeline, which is updated quarterly. As you can see all the way to the left, at the discovery stage, there may be hundreds of projects that are always changing. As we move into phase 1 trials, these are typically clinical trials with healthy volunteers, and they help us establish the safety of the molecules we're progressing. As it moves into phase 2, we then include trials with patients with the disease of interest and evaluate dosing and efficacy of those molecules. Phase 3 are very large trials, and they're very extensive programs, and this is basically to test the results of our phase 1 and phase 2 trials. And then all the way to the right, registration means that the data package is in review at the regulatory agencies, and we are awaiting decision on the approval. Now, historically, Pfizer has invested more than $7 billion a year towards developing safe and effective medicines. We focus our efforts in core areas where we believe Pfizer is best positioned to bring unique, needed therapies to patients. These include chronic inflammatory and autoimmune diseases, vaccines, oncology, cardiovascular and metabolic diseases, and rare diseases. We bring to these areas cutting-edge capabilities in medicine and vaccine design and development. Now, R&D is at the heart of fulfilling Pfizer's purpose as we work to translate advanced science and technologies into therapies that matter for patients in need. Groton Labs is a center of excellence for drug discovery and development. More than 2,500 Groton colleagues conduct critical science and are at the very core of Pfizer's purpose. Colleagues in Groton provide vital information, tools, technology, data, drug targets, and compounds to scientists around the globe at every level of drug discovery and development and across all of Pfizer's therapeutic areas. We also have a large number of colleagues who are in non-science-based roles who are also critical to the success of our mission. And these include things such as business technology, finance, facilities, human resources, and administrative professionals, just to name a few. Overall, there are many different kinds of careers here at the Groton Labs. Connecticut is also home to Pfizer's New Haven Clinical Research Unit, or CRU. It's a state-of-the-art research facility that conducts phase 1 and other clinical pharmacology research studies using intensive monitoring and cutting-edge technologies. The CRU has more than 60 research professionals on staff, including physicians, nurses, pharmacists, and laboratory scientists conducting clinical research. This 63-bed unit is fully integrated with Pfizer's research and development efforts. In addition to its clinical facilities, the CRU houses a biomarker laboratory and research pharmacy. Now, if you're thinking about a career at Pfizer, I would like to go over some tracks that you could take to get here. Once you have a bachelor's degree, you have a couple options, and this is to enter the workforce, or you can pursue an advanced degree. Both have their advantages. If you decide to pursue an advanced degree, you will have the opportunity to do things such as gain lots of technical experience and become a subject matter expert in your certain area. And then there's publications, lots of publications. On the other hand, if you decide to work after you get your undergrad and forgo the advanced degree, you can work for a company like Pfizer that has lots of resources, platforms, technologies, and expertise you wouldn't be able to get elsewhere. And oftentimes, companies such as Pfizer offer educational assistance where you can get the opportunity to pursue that advanced degree while progressing your professional career. Here's a view of where you could expect to enter Pfizer depending on your degree level. So essentially, you can enter the company at a higher level with an advanced degree, so don't feel like you're putting your career on hold if you decide to pursue that advanced degree. If you do choose to start your career right away out of undergrad and want to pursue an advanced degree while working, here are just some of the options Pfizer offers for continuing education. There are many more than just these, and as you can see, for instance, the Master's from Brown is held right here at the Groton site. If you're ready to pursue a career here at Pfizer, go to pfizercareers.com or any other job search engine and look for a role that might fit you. If you'll still be a student next year, we do offer a summer student worker program as well. The program lasts 12 to 16 weeks from May to August. You'll be able to conduct research with the assistance of senior Pfizer colleagues. You'll be able to network with other student workers and Pfizer colleagues. And at the end, you'll be able to present a poster of the program at a site-wide poster presentation. Now, the application period is from January to March, and to apply, you'll go to pfizercareers.com/student-programs. And here's just a look at what the portal will look like. Search for something that suits your background, desires, and passion, and go for it. I'll now hand it over to Danielle and Susan, who will tell you how to be successful in that job search.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. All right, so I'm here with Susan DePaulia, and my name is Danielle Masiak, and we just wanted to chat with you a little bit about some best practices, innovative thinking, and resume building and interview skills, so when you're ready to nail that next interview. So what we'll be going over is some resume building. So what is a resume in its simple form? Resume tips, some resume writing tips, as well as preparation, common questions, and delivery for your next upcoming interview. When we look at a resume in its simple form, it really is a powerful communication tool that would help to include your unique skills, experience, education, perspective, and really provide that first impression to the hiring manager and the hiring team to really show why you are the best fit for that position. This document would look at some major questions, which include, what do you currently do? What are you good at? What would be your key accomplishments? And what would you like to do should you move into this next position within your career? The resume will also provide a document to the managers and that hiring team to really help persuade and help them to understand why your experience is the best fit and makes you most qualified for that position. When looking at your resume and updating that for each role, I would recommend studying that job description, including keywords that relate well to that job from that description to really make sure you're tying back your experiences to that role specifically. And also have different versions of your resume depending on what position and what company you are applying to. We would look towards having specific cover letters that might state, I'm looking for a career at Pfizer, to really show that you have a strong understanding of the position that you are applying for. When crafting your resume, a few best practices would include having a professional format and really avoid using texts that would have various colors, artistic fonts. What we're looking for is a document that's easy to read. We would be able to really highlight your accomplishments versus getting caught up in an artistic format or many colors, which might not translate well within different systems where you might be applying to, and really helps the team highlight and understand what you are bringing to that position. Really keep your resume concise. Bullet points are a great way to show what your experiences are, and try to avoid paragraphs within your resume. Keeping your resume short, especially if you're coming out of your undergrad where you might not have a lot of industry or professional experience, would be key. So approximately 2 pages would be a recommendation. However, if you do have additional projects or additional experience you would like to add, don't limit yourself to 2 pages and sell yourself short just simply for that shorter resume. Certainly keep it concise. What information is important, make sure you're keeping there. Have your current responsibilities in present tense versus past tense. Powerfully worded statements that would jump out and really capture that reader's attention. And have a strategic focus on what would make you marketable and would have that strong fit to hiring managers for this position. And also including industry terms and abbreviations would be okay. But again, be sure that the resume is easy to read and is clear and concise. And just an example of what we might look at for a resume, certainly putting your current company, where they're located, your job title, as well as the dates of employment. And then from prioritizing your resume, we would look towards major contributions, your specialized skill sets, your team efforts, any leadership experience, as well as specific and relevant examples and experience. When you've nailed that resume, you're moving on to that next step for the interview. What we look for is our individual to tell your story, show your value, and really be true to yourself during that interview. Interview happens within 2 parts. The first is a preparation, getting ready for that delivery, which would be the interview with that team. A few quick tips to prepare. Every day would be a preparation day. So as you're going through school or any internships you might be working on, keep in mind and keep that running list of what would be a good success, some kudos, and this can help you to remember when you are writing that resume interviewing, what those great accomplishments were. Interview questions. So make sure that you are prepared for those questions. So you know you have a few ready to go and what you would be looking towards. And then, of course, practice. So it's always great to have somebody to work with, run through some interview practice questions so you know what you would like to say to the interview team, as well as how you would like to say them. And also keeping to the point of your examples and really sticking to that during the interview. A few questions to prepare for. Generally, these are the questions that we would recommend having an answer to, as most likely you would see these at some point in your interview. So again, this would look at the technical and functional aspects of the position. Why are you looking for your new position, or why did you leave your current role? Your strengths and weaknesses, your ability to work together as a team, managing conflicting priorities, working with differing views, overcoming obstacles, influencing others, a 30, 60, 90 plan, which would say, what are you looking to do in the first 30 days of this position, the first 60 days, as well as the first 90 days? And then thinking creatively, and if you have experience with managing or leadership, those are also great questions to prepare for. When you're looking towards having that delivery, we would look towards the situation, action, and outcome approach. So what is the setting, who are the players, and what was your responsibility in that situation or that example? What is the action item? So how did you plan? How did you execute? And also using I statements versus we statements to show that what your role was in that example. And then what was the outcome? So of course, share what was the end result, what did you learn, and what can you bring from that experience into this role? And then, of course, preparation for that dreaded question, which would be that weakness question. So a few tips would be to keep them genuine, don't overdo the example, but also prepare a few. So maybe think back to a project that you might have struggled on, or an example within your previous position, you might have had a challenge. What was that challenge? Where did you find the identified weakness? But also, how are you overcoming that weakness? Do you have a plan in place? That would be something very helpful to share with the team, and also shows that you are ready to overcome those weaknesses and grow professionally. And then, of course, we're going towards that delivery, so getting into your interview. We like to use the 3 C's, so staying concise, consistent, as well as confident. So again, stick to your story, stick to your examples, be consistent with your examples, as well as consistent with the experience you put on your resume, and also deliver your interview with confidence, project knowledge, expertise, and show your value that you can bring into this position. And at the conclusion, certainly take time to ask those questions to the team. Also remember, the team, it's not just an interview to see if you're a great fit for that role. You're also looking to see if the company is a great fit for you. So don't be afraid to ask questions that are meaningful to be sure that it aligns with your career goals and what you're looking for in an organization. If you have questions that you can tie back to the conversation, that's fantastic. And it can certainly show that you have listened to what they're saying and you're really taking in that the information into consideration. So always great to ask questions about the interview, and always have an emergency question in your back pocket, just in case the ones you have prepared for might already have been answered. And then, of course, at the end, ask about the timeline and then tailor your follow-up based on that timeline. So for example, a few do's and don'ts. A thank you note is certainly a great way to show the team that you are appreciative. So an email is perfect. Of course, if you work with the recruiter or the hiring team, sending an email and that thank you note should be sent the night that you've interviewed. And if you haven't heard back, check in based on the timeline that you were given during the interview. For example, if you were told that you'd be here back this week, give the team until about Friday afternoon. If you heard next week, give until about midweek the next week to follow up. And if the team does say in a few weeks, wait until the second week to follow up. One key thing to remember, especially if looking at a larger organization, for example, Pfizer, the hiring process might take a little bit longer than a smaller company. So don't assume that you're not being considered simply because you haven't heard back. It's great to maintain that healthy follow-up, but don't put quite that pressure on the manager or the team with numerous calls or emails. We certainly will circle back, or the team would circle back once we do have that update available. And with that, we will move into the colleague panel. So I'd like to take a moment just to introduce our colleagues today. Our first colleague speaking will be Sweta Modi, and she does have her master's degree in pharmaceuticals from the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research in India. She also received her PhD in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of Kentucky in 2013. This was under the guidance of Professor Bradley Anderson. During her research work, she was bestowed the prestigious PHRMA Foundation Predoctoral Fellowship, an AFPE Predoctoral Fellowship. In addition, she was one of 2 students selected from each university to present at the GPEN in 2012 at Melbourne, Australia. She has published 12 peer-reviewed articles, has presented at several conferences, and has joined Pfizer in 2013 with our formulations group, and currently holds the position of a principal scientist working in our farm-size small molecule. Our second panelist will be Melissa Orlando. Melissa joined Pfizer full-time as a colleague in January of 2018. as a senior associate scientist in the Rare Disease Research Unit as a synthetic medicinal chemist. She earned her BS in chemistry and MS in pharmaceutical chemistry from Fairleigh Dickinson University in Madison, New Jersey in 2017 through a 5-year combined degree program. Rachel Simons works within our medicine design business technology team as a development lead and business analyst for applications that assist manage the analysis, publication, and visualization of preclinical data by utilizing scientific domain knowledge, technical insight, and data workflow expertise. Rachel manages and designs the implementation of key workflows of new preclinical research data to capture for research scientists across the research units and support lines. Before Pfizer in 2013, as a pharmacology data expert and workflow developer in the data workflow and strategy team, Rachel did work with Monsanto in Mystic, Connecticut as a research technician. Rachel graduated with her Bachelor's of Science from Clarkson University in 2012, majoring in biomolecular sciences and minoring in biomedical sciences and technology, and recently graduated with her MBA from the University of Rhode Island. And last but not least, Kyle Wald is also on our colleague panel with our early clinical development team. Kyle earned his Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry from the University of Hartford, where he did research under Andrew Kraft on silver alloys for use in hydrogen fuel cells. Prior to graduation, Kyle was hired as a contractor to Pfizer's Analytical Research Development Lab in Groton, where he provided LG, CG, UV analytical support for API manufacturing. After 2 years, he found he wanted to be closer to patients and applied for a colleague position with clinical biomarker technologies within Pfizer's precision medicine organization. Kyle currently is a part of the team, which develops unique strategies and assays to understand the biological effects of therapeutic interventions in human patients using mass spectrometry-based technologies. In addition to his roles at Pfizer, Kyle is currently pursuing his PhD in pharmaceuticals and pharmacokinetics at the University of Rhode Island under Fatima Aklai. Now, with our esteemed and very accomplished panel, I'm going to turn it over to Sweta to chat a bit more about her role at Pfizer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shweta Modi, and I am a principal scientist at Pfizer Groton site. I would like to start by telling you about my career path. I did my bachelor's in pharmacy from India. After my bachelor's, I wasn't quite sure about my next steps, and I took up a job of medical sales representative in a small company near my hometown. 2-3 months into the job, and I hated it to the core and realized that it was not my cup of tea, and I should pursue higher education. I then wrote a central entrance exam and got into India's top institute for research to pursue my master's degree. It's called National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, aka NIPER. I did my master's in pharmaceutics from NIPER for 2 years. On completion of my master's, during campus placements, I got a job in pharmaceuticals generic company in a formulations group in India itself. I was there for 2 years and slowly developed an aptitude for research and development. I then wrote my GRE and TOEFL to pursue PhD program in United States. I got admission at University of Kentucky. After 1 year of lab rotation and 2 years of coursework, I started working on PhD thesis project. After completion of my 3rd year, I got an opportunity to do summer internship at Pfizer Groton site. That was a great opportunity to get a glimpse of industrial life and settings and make connections. Also, to learn something different from what I was doing as part of my PhD thesis project. After my internship of about 12 weeks at Pfizer, I went back to school to complete my graduate studies. Towards the end of the graduation, fortunately, there was an open position at Pfizer in the formulations group. I wrote to few people that I had worked with during my internship and shared my resume. I got an on-site interview call, and that was my ultimate chance to prove myself. The interview went very well and I was hired. Since then, I have been working at Pfizer in formulations group which is called Drug Product Design Group. Drug Product Design, DPD, sits under the broader organization called Pharmaceutical Sciences. My job role is to develop the dosage forms like tablets, capsules, ointment, injections for the patients. I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to contribute in changing the life of patients and making it better. My typical day at Pfizer is a combination of lab experiments, data analysis and interpretation, team meetings, discussions, and decision making. There is a lot of interaction and communication with the different partner lines, and everyone comes together, contributes their skills and expertise to make some decisions to bring the new medicines to patients. My career advice to those seeking it would be to own your career. Be aware, know the options out there, network, and have a strong desire to make a difference. People are willing to help you provided you ask for it. It's okay to take path A or path B, more routine path or a very unusual path if you are ready to own it. Learn from your actions to take an informed next step. Some very small tips I would like to give is one, have a very well written, crisp resume. Daniel has already covered a lot of great tips. To add, please make sure that there is no spelling mistake, to say the least, in your resume. Resume is the virtual first impression of you and the reflection of your skill sets and capabilities until you can prove it in person. So take some time to work on it. Two, have a LinkedIn profile to make the professional connections and showcase your profile and achievements. And little tip there, when sending an invite to someone, there is higher probability of getting accepted when there is a personal note to go with the invitation. And finally, pursue the career in something that you love doing the most, and you will definitely excel in it. Think of what you enjoy that you also do well, and consider the options to pursue it as a career. Thank you for the opportunity to talk, and I would like to turn over to the next panelist.
Hello, my name is Melissa Orlando, and I'm a Senior Associate Scientist here at Pfizer. I started my role in January of this year in the Rare Disease Research Unit as a synthetic medicinal chemist. Before that, last summer in 2017, I was a summer student worker here at Pfizer, and that's how I had learned about the position that I have now. The position that I have as a senior associate scientist would be considered entry level in the synthetic medicinal chemistry field. Typically, about 2 to 3 years of research experience or more is necessary to get this position. And I would recommend conducting research with a professor from your university as the best way to get this experience, as well as highly recommending external internships at industrial companies, similar to how I had an internship here. The year before my internship at Pfizer, I had an internship at Novartis up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that was my first glimpse of chemistry in the industrial field. And I would say that it was a really strong turning point in my career because it helped me to understand that industry is where I wanted to be rather than in academia. So because of that, that was why I had stopped at my master's degree and did not pursue a PhD. Although having a PhD is another alternative to getting on the career path that I am currently in. As a synthetic chemist, my typical day here at Pfizer is routinely in the lab. I work on synthesizing compounds or trying to develop new ways to make a large amount of compounds. And then we send these analogs to assays, which give us data on potency, selectivity, or any other biological parameters our project requires. I design experiments, purify compounds, troubleshoot our unexpected results, and rethink syntheses depending on what is going on with the project at that time. A lot of my work depends on where the project currently is. Paul had mentioned about the process of how R&D gets a medicine through the pipeline, and I work in the very early part of that path, where we are synthesizing thousands upon thousands of molecules, hoping that one of them will be our desired compound. I believe that one of the most important parts of getting a job is making sure that the company culture is something that fits you. Just how Danielle had mentioned that you need to also make sure that the company is a good fit for you. I think that company culture is extremely important because the people that you work with and the atmosphere that you work in are just as important as the work you are doing and making sure that you are qualified for the work you are doing. Any other recommendations that I have are in taking courses outside of your major, I would recommend giving yourself time to relax and not always just double up on all of the classes that you're taking. I had taken the time to take an arts class because I needed to fill my schedule. Being at a liberal arts school, you have to do an arts requirement. And I had taken a private piano lesson class, and I think that it was a really great outlet for me to still continue to challenge myself, but not be taking more than 3 science classes at one time. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next panelist.
Hi, my name is Rachel Simons, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Science from Clarkson University, where I majored in biomolecular science and minored in biomedical science and technology. My undergraduate internships consisted of a variety of in vivo or animal study work, ranging from looking at receptors within the intestines of zebrafish to testing antidotes for cyanide poisoning on rabbits. My first professional experience before coming to Pfizer was at Monsanto, where I worked on a team that genetically engineered corn and performed DNA sequence analysis to determine if our transformations were successful. It was here where I realized that I didn't love being hands-on in the lab as much as I had during my internships in college, but instead I found myself really drawn to learning about the underlying databases and processes for all the information we were collecting, how it moved from table to table, how it was being stored and tied together. At this point, I hadn't taken a single business or computer engineering course. And fast forward to today, I recognize that both of these domains are not only incredibly relevant to what I do now, but are skills that are applicable across industries. So I wish I could go back and listen to my mom and dad, who work in customer service and management and software engineering fields respectively, and tell 18 to 21-year-old me to take a couple of each. Shout out to them for the genetics that helped me pick these skills up along the way. A couple of years ago, I took advantage of the educational assistance program that Pfizer offers to obtain my MBA through the University of Rhode Island, and for a few programming languages, data analytics, and database structure courses as well, all paid in full. Today, I work within medicine design business technology as a development lead for applications that assist and manage the analysis, capture, and visualization of preclinical data. At Pfizer, all of our business lines and research units have partnering business technology groups that develop and support the applications and technologies that scientists need to do their work day in and day out. For me, a typical day or week consists of meetings where I talk with scientists to see what the applications they use need to be able to do for their ongoing work or upcoming work, and make it easier and faster for them to get their job done. From there, depending on the size of the work that is required, I either program solutions myself or I manage the development work being done by internal and external vendors and resources. I also run various councils and committees among the user groups that I support to get their input on how to prioritize the ever-growing to-do list, along with technical and project management meetings to make sure that work gets done on time, on budget, and as expected. What I love most about my job is that I get to learn about all of the new projects and assays that are ongoing while still being close to the science that I love so much, while utilizing my business and technical expertise to deliver treatments to patients faster by delivering solutions to scientists that need them to do what they need to do. Thank you, and I'm going to pass this over to Kyle.
Thanks. So my name's Kyle Wald. I got a BS in chemistry from the University of Hartford, and I'm currently pursuing a PhD in pharmaceuticals and pharmacokinetics. So currently, my role is to provide mass spec analytical support for first-in-human clinical trials and peripheral project studies. So what the heck does that mean? On a more routine, like day-to-day basis, it consists of method development in terms of liquid chromatography method development or mass spec method development, or actually bioanalytical method development. So we have to figure out, we're trying to look at specific metabolites of interest to prove whether or not our compounds are effective. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we can actually get them on the actual instrument and quantitate. That's essentially what that is. So if I'm not doing method development of some sort, I'm running clinical samples in-house and generating data. And if there's data generation, unfortunately, there's data processing that goes with that. So those are kind of my main features of this role. And how I actually got to this position is actually quite funny. So I was hired back in, oh my goodness, early 2015 in analytical research and development, which is essentially similar analytical work, just without the biology. It's just aiding like the upscale of like manufacturing. So for manufacturing like the compound, it's going from mgs to grams to gigs, and issues that arise from that. So I got hired into that role, and throughout the 2 years that I was doing that role, I would actually play ping pong with a couple of PhDs in an unknown group, et cetera, for about a year. And I got to know them, and I was asking questions of, oh, should I get a PhD? Should I get a master? Should I get an MBA? I was like, they quickly became like a mentor to me. And after me saying that I was interested in a certain type of job, the man that I was talking to, Matt, actually said, hey, I have a contractor position open in my group. So if you want to apply for it, go for it. So long story short, I applied for it, worked there for 3 months as a contractor, and ultimately got hired on. So you can kind of say the reason why I'm a Pfizer colleague is because I played ping pong, which is really weird to think about it, but it kind of really highlights what everyone's saying is like networking is really really important, because you don't know when it's actually going to benefit you until it does. So I'm currently in role. So what's like a starting job in my little niche? So entry levels with like minimal experience. So let's just say you're fresh out of college. You kind of assist a more senior colleague, and that's pretty much what I had done for the first couple of months. You're just learning the ropes essentially. So you're not necessarily doing method development. You're more like running the clinical samples and you're processing data. You're learning the ropes, but eventually you start developing those analytical methods or like the chromatography methods, et cetera. So you're performing like extraction protocols. So it's largely a lab-based role, and that really doesn't go away in my group. So to kind of get that role, typically, if you like utilize your time in undergrad effectively, you should more or less be ready for an entry-level position in that particular group. If you did your internships, research, maybe you might have a couple of publications from your undergrad research that might help. But if that doesn't work, you could take the path similar to what I had done, is you actually start as a contractor. So it's like a win-win. You get additional experience, and you can really show, in this case, Pfizer, that you really have what it takes, and you prove yourself so you can actually get that full-time position. And certain skill sets are needed for, depending on the role that you're going for. So I'll speak from my particular role, biology. So you need to be pretty well versed in biology and biochemistry, and paired with some sort of analytical technique. So my analytical technique that I developed is mass spec. So I was able to combine those two skills and essentially sell myself to Pfizer and have them hire me. As with any other job, there's additional skills that you need other than just the technical skills. You need to have some sort of soft skills or business skills that go with this. The the four most important ones that I can say is active listening, emotional intelligence, teamwork, and communication. You need to be able to listen to people. You need to be a good team member. You need to understand how you're talking to people. It just essentially boils down to being a good person. And this kind of pushes me towards the next area where like how important is company culture? And company culture is literally everything to me. So the kind of story that I go to is like, the question is, did you ever work like a terrible job in high school or undergrad, but you still loved it for whatever crazy reason? That's due to culture. I worked in a factory when I was 19 with a couple of my buddies, like just trying to make money over the summer. It was a terrible job, but I had a lot of fun doing it because the people that I was working with, not just my friends, but everyone that I was working with, like they were really nice people. They were down to earth. It was kind of like working with family. So even though I wasn't doing a fun job, the people that I worked with really helped me out. So if you do find a company that's like that only hires good people, and then you find a really, really good job that you like doing, that's a dream job. And fortunately, I've actually gotten that here. We have great culture here, and I absolutely am obsessed with the job that I do. So it's everything for me. Going back to things that you would actually need for my particular job, graduate degree or no, it's up in the air. And I think everyone goes down a different path. It doesn't matter if you go path A, B, or C, etc. I got my job with an undergrad or with a bachelor's, but I'm pursuing a PhD because that's what I wanted. Will it help me? Yes. No, it's irrelevant. It's what I had wanted to do. So you don't need to have that PhD. You don't need to have a master's degree. But if you want to do that, take advantage, and make sure that you really understand what you want to go to. Looking back, I had wished that like someone had told me that it's like okay with not knowing, but you want to minimize that stress by trying to figure out, oh, hey, I'm not interested in sales or I'm not interested in this. It's like start narrowing things down. As long as you're actively doing that, you'll be fine. Practice interviewing, leave your ego at the door and be able to ask questions. One of the things that have made me successful in the brief time that I've been here is that you don't know what you don't know. And I was beyond willing to ask questions, and you find people are more than willing to give the answer. So just swallow your pride, just ask questions, admit that you're not an expert in all areas, and you should be fine at the end. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you all very much. All right. So we do.
That is some great advice. Thank you, Pfizer. And I think I'm going to take up ping pong myself.
I'll challenge you.
So we have a couple minutes left for some questions from our audience, and I'll start with the first one from Andre. Andre asks the panelist, or maybe Danielle in particular, one of my major concerns is how early should I start applying to job positions? Based on your experience, what is the usual timeline from applying to being hired?
Yeah, and that really is a great question. So if you are graduating with your bachelor's degree or right out of school, I would say if you're looking at a large organization, maybe look about three to 4 months out from that graduation date, because typically the hiring process can take a few weeks. And if you are that great fit for that role, the team should be a bit flexible for that start date after graduation. So I would say about, a few months, 2-3 months out or so.
Yep, I'd say that. And if it's a particularly large company and industry, it's even okay to do like 5 months, 6 months out. You want to just be networking, doing your LinkedIn profiles, and really putting yourself out there. It's going to take some time.
Great, thank you. And the next question we have is from Daniel, and Daniel asks, thanks for putting this on. My question has to do with asking questions to the interview, and I suppose it could be answered by anyone. What are a few of your favorite questions to ask during a job interview? The secret sauce.
No, good one. So one of my favorite questions relates back to, and this is Danielle, relates back to company culture. As the panelists also mentioned, I'd be very interested to learn about how the team functions, how many direct reports might be working with that manager. Are there any specific projects, advancement opportunities, things like that. And really, what does that look like? And the other thing also would be, what would the next step be? So that advancement opportunity, because of course, if you're also coming right out of your undergrad, curious to see what might that next step be. And that's also going to work into that company culture. Are there mentor programs? Are there formal education options? And ask those questions surrounding culture. But do the panelists have any favorite questions?
I do. It depends. This is Kyle speaking. It depends on who you're talking to. So when I actually would go through panels, so typically you have quite a few people that you're talking to. Whoever is like one of the highest ranks, so it's like a VP or something like that, I tend to ask them the question of, how did you get where you are today? A, because I'm curious, and B, you can really pick their brains on how they develop their career. So it's not necessarily based off for the interview or the position. It's just understanding, it's like, am I doing the right things now? So you're always trying to push forward and improve. So when I got actually interviewed for the colleague position here, I asked a VP how she got to where she is, and we sat down, and that ended up being the entire interview. Was just me asking her what she's done, and you're picking, a brilliant person's brain, so might as well take advantage.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
You covered it all.
Great.
Great. Well, thank you. For Rachel, we have a question. Sarah, do you need a business degree for the business technology program? A degree in sciences with basic technology leadership skills work?
Yeah, I think a really great thing about business technology is there's a ton of different ways to get there. I think within my space, being so close to the science, in my experience, when I'm sitting on interview panels, I do look for people that have that science background, and being able to teach them along the way the technical. Like I said, I had no technical background at all, and my organization believed in my excitement to learn and my readiness to learn. Both of those I expressed while on my own interview panel. And for other departments, for finance or anything like that, they may look for at least your attempt to take courses within the business side or financial side. But I think it's a really great thing about business technology is that there's a million ways to get there.
Great. And also, just to add on, I do recruit for business technology, and quite often we do look at what are your technical skills. So even if your degree might not 100% align with that role, if you have other experiences that would lead to the technical capabilities and is highly relevant to that position, I think that also is a great way to show on your resume. Quite often individuals might come into a position where they have a totally different bachelor's degree, but again, their career took them in a different path. So always relate back to the job description itself. What are the qualifications listed, and highlight your experience to those qualifications.
Great, thanks Danielle and Rachel. Jessica asks, I often hear that international experience can strengthen an application. Short of hard skills, example, learning another language, what would you say is valuable about international experience that's different somehow from what you can gain in more local settings?
Yeah, this is Susan. So absolutely, global experience or international experience is is very helpful for companies such as Pfizer. We're global. A lot of pharmaceutical companies are global, as well as other industries. So certainly having touched in that will help you along. It's learning the culture in the different countries, how to communicate with other people in other countries or other colleagues, and of course that flexibility because of time zones and everything like that. So having that experience is definitely going to help you align yourself to a larger company as well.
Great, thanks, Susan. We probably only have time for one or two more questions, but we do have a few more. Aaron asks, for a PhD student looking to go into R&D, what other skills besides research would you recommend? What skills are companies looking for?
Hi, this is Melissa. So working in an R&D field, I would say that being able to work with a team is something that's really, really important in working in R&D, because you are not doing your own research, whereas that's what you're doing when you're doing a PhD. You work for your PI or your principal investigator, and you work with other students, but you're doing your own project and it's your own thesis. Whereas once you come into industry and you're being a scientist in the pharmaceutical field, you are working with a team that is not just the other scientists making molecules. You're also working with the chemists that are designing the molecules. You're also working with the biologists that are testing the data and the other types of scientists that are involved. So I think the teamwork is definitely something that's important.
And to that point, my group actually it has been going through the process of hiring a fresh PhD. And one of the air quotes complaints that we've been getting is that they didn't have any management skills. So in my particular niche, someone fresh out of college might get a direct report. If they don't really have those managerial skill sets, it's kind of like a hard fit. So not only being able to work in a team, but how to actually run a team is actually like pivotal to getting into the workforce.
Great.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, that's the time we have for today. We had some great questions and some great interaction. I really want to thank Pfizer for your time and expertise. A lot to think about and a lot to go forward with. I thank everyone who attended and A Day in the Life of Pfizer Scientists. You've really shared some insight on opportunities in Connecticut and beyond, and we greatly appreciate the time you took to share that experience. This webinar is part of an ongoing webinar series on careers in bioscience produced by BioCT in partnership with the UConn Center for Career Development. The next webinar in this series is scheduled for Tuesday, February 5 from 1 to 2 p.m. and will feature Todd Arnold, Chief Lab Officer at Semaphore Genomics. Please regularly check BioCT's event calendar at bioct.org/events or sign up for the BioCT news alerts and/or the UConn Center for Career Development's calendar at career.uconn.edu/events for more information about upcoming webinars. Once you leave today's webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete that and provide your feedback. You'll also receive a follow-up email within 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. A recording of today's webinar will also be available on the BioCT website as well as the UConn Career website. On behalf of BioCT and the UConn Center for Career Development and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.